Students, thank you for joining me for our resume discussion. We will begin with an introduction. My name is Christy Hare, and like many of our NMSU students, I was also a first-generation college student. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, specializing in management, and later in my career, I earned my MBA. I work with NMSU as a career services coordinator with the global campus, and I've been working in higher ed since 2017. During that time, I taught several business classes and workshops, with one of those being business communication at the college level, and have been assisting students with career exploration, resumes, cover letters, job searches, and mock interviews. And these are all things that you can reach out to NMSU Global Career Services for assistance with. This is an overview of what I will be covering, and I have already covered through slide 3. Next, we'll be taking a look at the purpose of a resume, the components, the very important skills section, 2 slides dedicated to applicant tracking systems, a template resume, and finally, a very important resume resource that I like to share with students. The purpose of your resume is for you to showcase your skills in order to secure an interview opportunity. So on this slide, we're going to discuss the components of a resume. So first, we have our personal information. We want to list our full name. Second, our contact should include a telephone that is a reliable and consistently functional telephone. We want to have a voicemail that gives our name on the greeting. And the reason for this is that many employers will not leave a message if they are not certain they have the right person. Next is the very important skills section. Here on the photo, you can see it labeled as highlights. I direct students to lead with this section to catch the resume reviewer's interest. We will talk more about this on our next slide. Next, we have work experience, and the photo here showcases a really neat way of listing this. I like the way that it pulls out major accomplishments under the employer in order to highlight those. That is an interesting touch. And then lastly, we have our education or academic qualifications. Next, our very important skills section. So in this photo, we see a resume reviewer making a decision about who will be chosen for an interview. Research tells us that we have between 2 and 8 seconds to get a resume reviewer's attention before they move on to the next resume. This is why the skills section in the opening is so very important in order for us to grab the reader's attention. Next, we're going to discuss the applicant tracking system. You might also hear me refer to it as an ATS. An applicant tracking system compares each applicant's resume against the job description to determine digitally who are the top percentage of qualified candidates. The way it does this is by matching the job description wording to the wording in the resume. The ATS then creates a percentage match per applicant. An employer will specify what percentage match of candidates they will interview. For example, an employer may only interview candidates with a match score of 80% or higher. Does this mean that some qualified candidates will be excluded? Yes, it definitely does. However, employers are weighing that against the time spent for a human to review each and every application. To give an example, some recent job openings that we have had in the global division have brought over 300 applicants. And another example, I personally have talked to a recruiter that was recruiting for a remote job opening, and the company closed the job listing after only posting the job for 1 weekend because they had over 500 applicants in a single weekend. So when we think about how many resumes that equates to reviewing for a single job opening, and keeping in mind that employers may have multiple job openings posted at a time, we can start to understand the reasoning behind why employers would choose an applicant tracking system to help streamline their resume review process. So what this means is, as the applicant, due diligence must be done to make sure that the exact wording that is in the job description aligns to the wording in the applicant's resume and cover letter. That being said, we always want to make sure that we are being honest with any materials that we submit. We want to pay careful attention to tense and abbreviations, as these are items that can cause a resume to be discarded. For instance, I was in a training recently where the trainer provided an example using the abbreviation MBA, which is the abbreviation for the degree Masters of Business Administration. The trainer shared that one particular ATS could not read the abbreviation MBA. The applicant tracking system could only read the words Masters of Business Administration. So it's very important to pay careful attention to the wording and the job description to match that wording. Ethically, again, by making sure that anything we share is truthful. You may ask yourself, do all companies use an applicant tracking system? And the answer is no. However, what we do know is the number of companies that are using applicant tracking systems is increasing. And when we don't know for sure if one is being used, we want to assume that there is an applicant tracking system in place so that we have our application materials equipped to pass through the applicant tracking system. The next slide is a side-by-side comparison provided by Indeed. On the left side, we see a very attractive looking resume that has columns and graphics. And on the right side, we see a more standard resume that doesn't quite have the eye-catching graphics that we see on the left. Both resumes have their place, however. When we think about most job applications now, resumes are submitted digitally. And so we need to have a resume that is in PDF form, where all of our items stay in position, and where we have a very clean document to submit. The issue with our non-ATS friendly resume on the left is that while it is visually appealing, an ATS cannot process all of the graphic elements on the resume. And so even though it's pleasing to look at, and the candidate may be very qualified to do the job, the resume will likely get rejected by the ATS because there's formatting in the resume that cannot be understood by the applicant tracking system. And so it is a much better option to choose a more basic format, such as the resume on the right, that we will not have difficulty with formatting of the resume passing through the applicant tracking system. The non-ATS friendly resume could still be an option if it is possible to submit it in person only. A lot of times when we go into an interview, we want to have a copy of our resume handy. So this could be a good opportunity to leave that more visually appealing resume with the interviewer. slide, I would like to talk about two aspects. The first being JobScan as a resource, and the second, the components of the resume shown here. This is a resume example provided on JobScan's website. JobScan is a company that allows you as the applicant to scan a job description side by side with your resume to flag any aspects of your resume that may cause your document to be flagged and not pass through the applicant tracking system. I believe at the time of this recording that JobScan allows you to scan your resume against 2 job descriptions per month for free, and you can scan more than that if you are willing to pay a fee for that service. If you are an applicant that has continually submitted resumes to positions that you know you are qualified to do without getting a response, then it may be worthwhile to purchase additional scans. I used the free version of JobScan personally at the time that they were allowing applicants to do 5 scans per month. And I personally did see an increase in the amount of interviews that I received once I started using JobScan. So I do feel it is a worthwhile resource. However, I did only use the free version. Second, I would like for us to take a look at the resume components here. You may remember from the slide 5 that we talked about these particular areas. So thinking back to slide 5, we have our personal information and our professional contact information, such as our telephone number and a professional email address, a LinkedIn web address, and then in the next section, our very important skills section that we talked about previously on slide 6. And then we come down to our work experience, listing our current or most recent position first, and our second most recent position behind that, followed by our education. Now, I do not personally recommend putting your year of graduation on your resume. The training that I have received says that it is a way in which people can use age discrimination, whether against someone older or younger. Discrimination can go both ways. So I guide students to leave off the year of their degree. You may have more than 2 positions to list. It's best if we can keep our resume to 1 page. However, for people who have been in the workforce for a while, it may not be possible. Finally, in working with students, many struggle with the bulleted job duty listing and wording professionally. And so I have a final resource on the next slide that I would like to share with you that I think does an excellent job of assisting with that area of the resume that people can find challenging. Finally, our last slide is on ONET Online. This is a great resource that helps students with the job duty listing that can be challenging. To access ONET, you can search the term ONET Online in your search engine. You will then see the web page listed in the box on the left side. Notice the left red arrow. In that box, enter the position title of your position and then click the navy blue bar underneath that says search. You will see a listing of similar positions. From that list, choose the one that most closely resembles your position. Next, you will see the page that's in the box on the right of this slide. Notice the red arrow in the middle of the page pointing to job duties. You can see that it points to a small down arrow which says 5 of 17 displayed. We would want to click that down arrow to expand all 17 tasks. We do not want to list 17 different job duties, so we will want to pick about 5. So how do we choose which of the 5 to use? We definitely want to choose duties that align to what the job description has listed and duties that we have experience in. Research tells us that when people make a list, they will usually write the most important things first. So you may want to look at the job description to see what are the first duties that are listed. However, keep in mind to highlight the skills that are your greatest assets first. And this goes back to what we said in the beginning, where we have only a limited amount of time to catch the resume reviewer's interest. So we want the most important duties listed first. One reason that I like ONET is because it provides professionally worded job duties and is a great resource to help students with this aspect of their resume. Lastly, I have shared my contact information here. Much of what has been shared today is general information. However, resumes are very specific to the individual. And so my recommendation would be to schedule an appointment with me to look specifically at your resume and your qualifications, and then I can provide even more targeted guidance to assist you. Thanks so much for your time, and I appreciate your attention.